Welcome to MarcusG.TV and Chef on a Mission Radio. I'm Chef Marcus Giuliano, and today's mission is whiskey, bourbon, Jamie.
It sure is. We found an article. Now, we at one point were selling a product called Widow Jane Bourbon. It has a great story. The label looks great. Their bottles are hand numbered. It's from a company in Brooklyn that's using water from just 20 miles up the road from us, from the Widow Jane Mine, which is the famous mine in Rosendale here in Ulster County. We were sold immediately. It has a great story.
It has a great story, and it was a good product in the bottle, I felt.
It sure was.
So now, there's been some controversy. There was an article in the Bluestone Press, which is the local newspaper up in High Falls, Stone Ridge. There was a thing there which kind of like prompted me to say, well, what's going on with this? Because a comment from the Century House Historical Society, which actually owns the mine, is presenting a different side of the story than Cacao Pareto, than the distillery of Widow Jane. So I posted, I've spoken to the Century House, I've gotten their story, I made a video with my thoughts and my opinions, and unfortunately, Cacao Pareto did not like it, and they sent me 2 letters right away demanding me to remove my video online. So they also have done the same thing to the Century House, to all the board of directors there. They've tried to really hush them with letters, I've been told, from people from the board of directors.
And the interesting thing in this article that we actually found was that the Century House hasn't been given anything, right? So no reimbursement, no compensation.
Which we're going to get to that, because the Century House is a non-profit trying to preserve this famous mine in Rosendale. So we found an article from Chuck Cowardy, and Chuck Cowardy is
at the beginning of September 2014.
Yeah, so let me just go over Chuck Cowardy's credentials, okay?
Sure.
He's written, from what I see here on his profile, over 6 books, he's a writer specializing in American whiskey. He is the author of Bourbon, Strange, Surprising True Stories of American Whiskey, Bourbon, Straight, the Uncut, Unfiltered Story of American Whiskey, The Best Bourbon You'll Ever Taste. These are all the books. The True Story of A.H. Hirsch, Reserve Straight Whiskey. The books go on. His credentials go on. This is what he does. But the interesting thing is he's also an attorney. He lives in Chicago, so he doesn't really know the situation of, what was happening here locally, but he went online and did some research from it, and he found some articles.
And he made some phone calls.
He made some phone calls to the Century House, to the custodials of the Widow Jane Mine.
And also to Cacao Pareto.
Yes, he did. Pareto.
Cacao,
yes. He called them as well. To find out, just because their whiskey, their bourbon, is extremely confusing. So let's roll into the article. It's from September 5th on Chuck Cowardy's blog, chuckcowardy.blogspot.com, wherein we mine more facts about Widow Jane.
All right, so I'm just going to read some excerpts from the article itself.
Please.
Let's see. In subsequent reading after Wednesday's post, I came across an interesting article on the website from the Bluestone Press. That is the local newspaper for Stone Ridge, which also serves the nearby town of Rosendale, where the Widow Jane Mine is located. They're
about literally less than 10 minutes apart.
Right.
Less than 10 minutes.
The story from March of 2013 tells how Daniel, how do you say that?
Pareto
Preston, founder of Cacao Pareto, producer of Widow Jane Bourbon, came to fall in love with the Widow Jane Mine. Most folks in the Bluestone Press reading area probably already knew about the Widow Jane Mine itself, because it's pretty popular around our area.
It's world famous for their cement. The Rosendale.
It's a limestone.
It's limestone, very legendary. Brooklyn Bridge, Statue of Liberty.
They all use.
It's world famous because of the way it hardens and the strength of it.
So let's see. What would have been news was the bourbon whiskey from a company 95 miles to the south in Brooklyn, named after and supposedly made using water from the mine. As we learned on Wednesday, Cacao Pareto offers several different products under the Widow Jane name. And
I have to interrupt you 1 second. Their coffee liqueur, their Brooklyn coffee liqueur, I love it. Love it. It's like biting into a bitter coffee bean, and it's a liqueur, because a lot of liqueurs are just so sweet. So I'm not by no means saying that their products are bad that they're doing. Just there's some controversy around their origins, their labeling, and really the ethics.
Well, we would hope that at some point they would come forward and actually make a statement. And
instead of sending attorney letters.
Exactly.
So I'm not bashing their product. I'm not bashing them. We're just stating what Chuck Cowardy has done his research on,
right.
Who's an attorney, who has a blog, and who has a lot of credentials on the subject of bourbon.
So let's see. The one featured in the Men's Journal article is not. A Cacao Preto spokesperson confirmed to me today that it was distilled at MGP in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. According to TTB Rule 5.36D, which I'm assuming is a rule pertaining to product labeling.
Yes.
The words distilled in Indiana must appear on the product's label.
Apparently it's not.
Apparently it does not.
Because they're giving you the representation. A lot of people that we speak to think that the product is made with 100% water from the Widow Jane mine. So a lot of people believe, even the salespeople for the company believe that this is a truly local product.
Right.
So, but it's being distilled in Indiana.
Exactly. You can read the article for yourself. It's online. It's available.
It's available. Just Google Chuck Cowardy, Widow Jane, and it'll pop up.
But do not neglect the comment that follows it from the owner and custodian of the Widow Jane Mine on the Snyder Estate in Rosendale, the Century House Historic Society. The comment, signed by all of the officers and directors of the not-for-profit society, states that the water was not supplied by the Historical Society from the Widow Jane Mine for this endeavor. Furthermore, it disclaims the Historical Society has no commercial relationship with Mr. Preston and his manufacture of Widow Jane whiskey, and the Century House does not benefit in any way from the sale of this product.
That's a misconception that people have. People have, assuming some of the locals that we hear, because we're local to this, people from the local communities think that the Century House is making money off of this. They're getting paid a licensing fee, that they're getting profits from somewhere.
Which, if they are using that water, then that would be the right thing to do.
That would be great. Right. That would be great. So a lot of people think that that's what's happening. They just assume.
But that's not what's
And that
happening.
may not be Cacao Preto's fault. I think people just associate the name with it.
Right.
And just, and say, oh, well, that's, that's just what it is.
Since the main article clearly states that the Preston is using water drawn from the same aquifer, but on property he owns nearby, the issue here is one of personal ethics and simple marketing savvy, not law. Century House is very obviously an underfunded labor of love kept alive by small donations from local history buffs. Just like the little historical sites all of us have in our local community.
Exactly. It's a small, they're just trying to preserve what's there on an extremely limited budget, relying upon donations.
They don't have their own trademark for Widow Jane Mine. The fact that anyone knows about or has any affection for the place is likely due to the preservation and interpretation efforts put forth by this tiny not-for-profit whose principal mission is to preserve and protect the historical mine and keep it open to the public.
Exactly.
In marketing...
Because you can get a tour. You can go get a tour and everything
cool.
of the mine. Yes, they've invited us there, and we're going to actually go take a look at it.
In marketing, the nice term for that is borrowed equity.
Borrowed equity.
Cacao Preto is borrowing, not paying for, the goodwill and awareness created by the Historical Society, but doing it in a way that is perfectly legal, much like the bar that calls the Super Bowl the championship or the big game in its promotions. In itself, Rosendale's natural cement is pretty interesting stuff, and you talked about that before.
Yes.
About how they use the mortar when mixed with water, and it's been used for different things. And then they talk about how limestone is really good in bourbon.
You need the limestone. You need those. You need that because the iron in water is not good. The water's perfect to activate the yeasts.
Right.
Is what Chuck explains here and other places, which is why the water in Indiana, Kentucky, and that parts of the country is really good for bourbon.
A savvy marketer, perceiving the marketability of the name and limestone water angle, and perhaps also anticipating the very story I'm writing now, would have long ago secured the Historical Society enthusiastic permission to use the name through a generous tax-deductible donation, and probably for additional consideration could have entertained customers at the mine and done any number of tie-in events, instantly converting fans of Widow Jane Mine into devoted buyers of Widow Jane Bourbon.
I totally agree with that paragraph that he's saying. What he's saying there is that Widow Jane, Cacao Pareto should have really worked a partnership out where money is definitely going to help preserve the mine, do benefit dinners there, do benefit tours, tastings, whatever, and really promote and bring awareness to this.
What the mine is all about.
Right, about what the mine is, and work synergistically instead of just using borrowed equity, because that's what it is. It's borrowed equity. They're using the name and the historical site, which is legal, by the way, but it's just not benefiting who people think it's benefiting.
Since the article and comment are more than a year old, I contacted the Historical Society again, and they confirmed to me that the comment from 2013 still expresses their position.
Now, we've spoken to the Historical Society, to the board members, and they're adamant about this is our position. This is our position. The letter that I received says that, from their attorney, that they're getting water from, down the road that's connected to the aquifer. Now, the Historical Society specifically explained to me that that the water goes in these certain directions and it's not going into
the direction that they said.
Right. So there's some controversy even there. That's just what I've been told based upon my research and talking.
So Chuck Cowardy just continues to go in and talk about, what the right thing would be to do and how to fix things and make things better.
So the one thing is here is the mislabeling of it. It's really not labeled properly. It should be saying Product of Indiana. Now, their label has changed many times over the course of the last couple of years. They came in business in 2012. So anybody who says, okay, the distillery came in business in 2012 and they're selling a 7-year-old bourbon, you've got to understand that the bourbon was not made within 7 years and it's a year-old distillery or a 6-month-old distillery. It's not uncommon for distilleries or names of brands to have their products made at a central location. For instance, tequila has 1,600 brands and there's only 160 distilleries. So it's a common practice for people to buy barrels, for people to get private labels done, for you to give your recipe to a distillery and say, please make this and put my name on it, whatever it is. And some of these distilleries will make 20, 30, 40 brands of products. So it's not an uncommon practice that you're not making your own. What is his here was that it is misleading to the locals here. People who don't know the situation or outside of the area that might be in New Jersey or New York City who don't know Rosendale might just say, oh wow, this is a great story and this and that, but the people up here are actually questioning it and saying, well, this doesn't sound right. And once you get more into the Rosendale area and you talk to the people from the Century House, it doesn't make sense at all. So Chuck Cowardy did a great job on this. Of course, what we did here was just read Chuck's article, his post. It's very good. These are not our opinions. These are Chuck Cowardy's opinions, and we just happen to like this article very much. And there's some interesting comments on here when you read down, and Chuck Cowardy really addresses a lot of the comments. He comments back. But if you're a bourbon aficionado, definitely. Check this out and check out Chuck Cowardy, because he's a bourbon. He knows his bourbon here. It seems like, based upon all of his credentials. So as far as us at our restaurant, we have a problem giving money to people that we feel don't deserve our money. We have a problem giving money to people that are not giving money back to communities. We really strive to support local, but in some cases local may not be the best option. So for us, it's a matter of, if we're buying cognac I use this example all the time, is not local, but for us, if we're buying cognac, we want to make sure that it's going to a small cognac producer who's actually giving back to the community and not doing, whether it's cognac, whether it's scotch from Scotland, whether it's a Tuscany wine. We want to make sure that we're supporting small individual producers that are actually doing the right thing. So local's great, but local may not always be the answer.
Ask questions, do research, and find out what you're eating and drinking.
Yes, and it's a shame that there's this controversy around this bourbon, because I actually happen to like the bourbon, and people do actually like it. It got rave reviews. But again, for us, it's a matter of, as Chuck Cowdy puts it, the ethics and the morals in the article. How he puts it great. The article is very well written. I really like it. Chef Marcus Giuliano and Jamie.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching this video. If you like our videos, please hit like, subscribe to our channel, and definitely check out Aroma Time Radio and Chef on a Mission Radio. That's on Bear Manor Radio Network. Check that out. And please share this video, like it, and check us out again.